أهلا وسهلا فيكم في حلقة جديدة من بودكاست DMES. اليوم لنا ضيف مميز. اليوم ضيفنا مستر ماركو بلانكبرغ. How are you, Mr. Marco Blankenburgh?
Very well. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much, and it's a very great time that you give us your time and came to our podcast.
I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Maryam Naeem, and we're excited to hear your thoughts and more about your experiences. My question is, at what age do you think students should start learning about their personality and how they learn best?
Wow, that's a good question. Well, there's two ways to go about it. One is you can start observing yourself at an early age, but you also have to be careful because personality forms over time. So when we do look at an assessment, so you can actually do a personality assessment. By and large, students might be ready for that maybe at 14 to 16 years of age. But even our own kids, we have 4 kids, and some children, you see very early their personality goes in a certain direction. They're more people-oriented or more quiet, more introverted, extroverted. So some children, very early age, you start to see it. Others, it takes much longer before their personality starts to come out. So formal assessment, somewhere around 14. But we've had fun in our family just observing from an early age, where are the kids growing, what's their personality, how it's developing. Yeah.
And also, in your opinion, when do you think students should start learning about their personality and how they learn best?
Well, you need to, I think at an early age, you can already start to look for key markers. So for instance, I already mentioned, are you more introverted or more extroverted? People who are more introverted, they process things quietly. They need time to think. You can't just jump them with a question, for instance. You need to prepare them. Others love to speak out loud. We always say some people think with their mouth open and some people think with their mouth closed. So you can pick that up very easily from yourself when you're young. Other people love detail. So they always ask why questions. And others just jump in and try, and they're okay with it. So those little things you can pick up at an early age. You just need to know what to look for, and then it becomes fun.
Mm-hmm. How can knowing about personality types making teaching easier for teachers rather than feeling just like one more tax?
For teachers, wow. Well, first of all, a teacher has their own personality. So I've had the privilege of working with a lot of teachers over the years, and we've developed programs for teachers as well. So what's really important for a teacher is to understand how they are wired to begin with. So like I said, some teachers, they love structure. Other teachers, they love to just open it up and see what happens. So learning what's important for you, that's a good start. And then the reality is that if you have so many different kids in the classroom, they are culturally different and they are different from a personality point of view. And there is no one size fits all. So one of the things we always look at, for instance, is how easy is it for a student to take risk. So if you are risk averse, then you will need a lot more structure and preparation. So for the teacher to come alongside students who need that, while at the same time other students, they might say, give me the task and I'll figure it out. That's a very different approach. The other thing that happens is certain personalities in the classroom, they easily speak up. They become the voice. There's a cultural reason for that, but also a personality reason for that. So as a teacher, to figure out who are the loud ones and who are the quiet ones, and how do I make sure that both voices get heard? So how do you design your activities? How do you put your groups together? How do you make sure that everybody starts to become part of the learning process? Because if you don't do that, and teachers know this, but if you don't do that, the loud ones are always speaking, and the quiet ones are always quiet. So that's another thing. And then another thing that is really important is how do you manage collaboration versus doing things on your own. So some students, they love to quietly reflect. They have to think about it. They might do some quiet assignments on their own before they engage with others. And then other students, they just want to talk, and they explore together while they're talking. So these different modes of how personalities show up in the classroom, that's where teachers can really benefit from understanding them. And again, it's like these standard markers of human personality that in the world of psychometrics, that's what they call it. So measuring the psychology of people. There's classical markers. I already mentioned introversion, extroversion is one. High risk, low risk, detail-oriented versus figuring it out along the way, thinking out loud, speaking and thinking at the same time versus quietly thinking things through before you speak. There's a few more markers like that, and when you're aware of those in the classroom as a teacher, you start to see them. They become lights that light up in the classroom.
Yes, and do you think knowing about personality types makes teaching easier for the teachers?
Oh, absolutely. Because it's like so my personality type, I love to figure things out on the way. So I'll jump in the car and we'll find out where we're going and how we're going to get there. If I naturally just follow my personality and I would teach or facilitate the group that way, a lot of people will get confused, they will get nervous, they will say, where are we going? How are we going to get there? I don't know what to do next. Because my natural personality is, I don't break it down into small pieces. I love to just figure it out. So tell me where you want to go, and I want to find the steps to get there. And so if I don't become mindful of my own personality and say, whoa, let's pull back and let me make sure I align with where the students are in the classroom. Because then I need to actually add more tools to my teaching toolbox. So one size fits all, it's not going to work. So I need to have lots more tools in my toolbox. And I pull those out depending on the dynamics in the classroom, what each student needs in the classroom, and then I can come alongside them. It's a lot more fun. It's a lot more fun. But you need to have those extra tools in your toolbox.
Yes.
If you follow just your personality, very likely some students are going to say, wow, Mr. Marco is an amazing teacher, and others say, oh, it's so hard to be in this classroom.
And also maybe some students and some children have different personality, and how can the teacher can consider on them, and how can he help them to change their personality?
Well, that's a very interesting question, because your personality, so what we say is your personality doesn't change that much. It matures, especially when you're young. So what we see is when you're young, you're not self-aware yet. So you try different things. You try to be popular, you try to be smart, you try to collaborate, you see which groups of friends you might hang out with. So you're trying, and figuring out, well, who am I? What works for me? What gives me energy? What drains my energy? So as you mature in life, your personality starts to shape. It's already there, but you need to discover it. So does your personality change? Not that much. There could be significant events in your life that could push your personality in a certain direction. Your behavioral style can change a lot. So we make the difference between your personality, which is more hardwired, and how you were born, But then your behavioral style, that's where you can stretch. And I work a lot with adults, and we continuously push adults to stretch their personality. And that's what a teacher needs to do. If you have all these different personalities in the classroom, you are continuously stretching, like the example
Yes.
I gave of myself. You know, I can't just only follow my way of doing things. I need to stretch into the space of a student who is more detail oriented, or a student who's more risk averse, or a student who likes to do reflection on their own. Other students want to keep talking about things, or be more expressive in the way they do projects. So catering for personality, but at the same time learning to stretch, learning to adjust. And that's where, like I said, you need all these fun tools in your toolbox.
And also, I want to have one more question, last question.
Okay.
Sometimes students and parents are very different in personality or even culture, outlook, even within the same home. How can families better understand and support those differences?
Wow, that's a big question.
Yes.
Because you've mentioned two things that are very important. So we talked about personality already, and then there is culture. So both these, we call it the two spotlights. So they're very important in our home. We have 4 children. So all our kids were born in the UAE. And when it comes to personality, we have like the full spread of everything I've mentioned so far in our household. So when we are sitting around the table, we have everything from, you know, processing out loud, to quietly reflecting, to high risk, to low risk, to wanting to do things together versus wanting to do things on their own. We have all these very interesting personalities around the dinner table, for instance. But on top of that, me and my wife were from different countries, different cultural backgrounds. And then we live in the UAE. So families have multiple dilemmas. So in our case, our children are third culture kids, because my wife and I have 2 different passports, and then the kids were raised here. Most children in the UAE, even if you come from an Emirati family, for instance, you are very likely in some way a cross-cultural kid, because you have your home, and then you go do life, and you go to school, and you might do sports or some other outdoor social activities. So either kids are cross-cultural kids or they're third culture kids, like in our household. So the kids bring stuff home, they get exposed, and they bring that into the family. So a lot of our work even is with helping families, helping kids understand what that means and how you deal with that. So you don't just have generational issues that come into the family, you also have the cultural exposure. And one of the things that's really, really important is, no matter if you're a cross-cultural kid or a third cultural kid, learning to build culture together within the family. So, doing that well is really important.
And yes, just now you said you and your wife from different culture. How you let your children have the same both cultures? How?
That's a sharp question. We actually did a podcast on that recently with a gentleman, Chris O'Shaughnessy. He's done work on third culture kids for many, many years. And the one thing that parents need to realize is, my children will never, I'm from the Netherlands and my wife is South African, so my children will never be as Dutch as I am. And my wife has to realize our children will never be as South African as she is. So that means I have to let go of that. I can be proud of being Dutch, I can bring Dutch things into the family, but we have to create another culture together. So we call that the third cultural space. So it's not mine, it's not my wife's, it's another cultural space that we build together. And the same principle is true no matter if you have a family like ours, or if your parents are from the same country, living in your own country, like an Emirati family, you still have to find a way together with your children to create a culture that works for everybody. And it's not copy-paste, the family next door is the same family as us. So creating culture together, creating that third cultural space is super important. And it's a lot of fun. So it's what is important, what values are important for us. What do we not do in our family? What do we want people to say about our family when they speak about us on the outside? What are fun things that we like to do together? What are maybe some rituals that we create in the family that the rituals become things you remember when you get older? Say, in our family, a silly thing, it doesn't rain often in the UAE, but in our family, the Dutch like to bake pancakes. So we said, okay, when it rains in the UAE, we eat pancakes.
It's nice and good.
It's a silly thing, right?
Yes.
But the children remember it. We love the outdoors, so we love going to the desert. And we have several times during the year where we said, that's when we go to the desert. And the children remember that when they grow up, sitting around the campfire, taking the 4x4 through the sand dunes, watching the stars, having good conversations with nice barbecue and a fire going. Those are the things that the kids remember. So that's what I mean when you create culture at home. Make it fun, do it together, especially when the kids get older. We pulled the kids into crafting the culture together.
Yes, and most people now, they don't like to say they're two cultures. Maybe they're from two cultures, different cultures, but only they say their father culture, and they skip the mother culture. Many people, they are doing like that.
Yeah. So it can be a choice to make. What we find, if you look at, I don't want to get technical, but if you look at cultural research, you actually can never leave behind the culture that you were raised in. So honoring the culture of both the parents and using the beautiful things from both sides to create the culture of the home is quite important. If you look at the research on people that say, well, I moved countries, so I'm going to totally leave behind where I came from. I leave the language, I leave the culture, I leave the rituals and the habits. Eventually, when they get older, it starts to have a negative impact. So what we always say is find the beauty from both sides, bring it together, do it intentionally, and create that third culture at home. And yes, it might be that if it's one parent is Emirati, one parent is from somewhere else. Maybe the Emirati culture is stronger in how you create the household, but also bring beautiful things from the other parent into the household because it's important, because it's part of him or her. In the same way in our household, we have South African and Dutch. Both are part of our history. Part of where you came from as a child. In our case, the 4 kids that we have. So use both and be wise about it and celebrate both.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Marco. We have a very great conversation, and thank you so much to come to our podcast, DMES. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here with us, Mr. Marco. We really enjoyed hearing ideas and learning about your experiences. We appreciate you taking the time to share your thoughts with us at DMES Podcast.